Here we are, episode 61 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. If you're here to grow, scale, build your junk removal dream, you've come to the right place. As always, I'm Andy Weins, hailing from the great state of Wisconsin, joined in part by my battle buddy, Casey Bubba Lawrence. Casey, what do you want to talk about today?
And today is kind of a freestyle episode because our guest had to cancel unexpectedly last minute. We know how that goes. Some personal mishap or personal things happen in his life, so we understand.
Yeah.
So
it's part of the
today we're just gonna we're gonna play the junk removal game. We're gonna improvise. I think a lot of us are starting to see things are more expensive. Things are definitely being affected by the economy. People are not wanting to spend money certain places. One of those, in some places, one of those being junk removal. So how do you get out from under it? How do you keep continuing, right? What do you do next? How can you still survive in a market that doesn't necessarily support service-based businesses like it did a few years ago?
Yeah, I see this day in and day out within my own business. And I've heard it from other people too. Really, people are more price sensitive now than they were. So let's take the last 3-year snapshot, right? So Q1 2020 was good until it wasn't, right? And then Q2 was dead, and then Q3 and 4 was, did I survive on PPP money? And oh, by the way, there was a huge influx in that Q2 Q3 period, Q4 of 2020 of people saying, hey, I got laid off from my job, or I quit my job, or I hate my job, and I'm going to get into junk removal. And the pent up demand,
or they
for
got
real
mistreated
estate,
by their job,
or mistreated, yeah,
because of the
reasons.
shutdowns.
Yeah, no doubt, and they staked their own claim. And then 2021 was a good year for a lot of people. Borrowing money was cheap, housing market was hot, people got in. Interest rates, if you need to get an SBA loan or anything else, were low. There was PPP money, there was EDIL money, there was now ERC money, which actually we can maybe talk about ERC money here, employee retention credit money. I hooked up with a company recently that's hooking me up now with some from dollars for put in the good fight back a couple of years ago. Anyway, so that's interesting. And then 2022 Q1 and 2 were hot again. Macroeconomics, you got low interest rates, which means increased inflation, which means increased spending, which means people are buying more things, they're moving more, and they need junk removal. And then the second half of last year, all of a sudden, I don't say all of a sudden, predictably, I should say, things started slowing down. And we also saw that with labor. Labor was tough to come by in 21 and 22. Second half of last year, all of a sudden, we stabilized, and especially in our business, stabilized our labor. Q1 of this year was slow for us, and I saw it for a lot of people. I saw a lot of people in the Facebook groups like, hey, I'm used to a seasonal slowdown in February, and this year it's worse. Like, or people that were, people that are shit hot last year were like, hey, last year it picked up in April, and now it's mid-May, and what the fuck over? And now we're recording this episode here the second week of June, and I still see people scrubbing out there. And the other thing I'm seeing is people are more resistant to price, right? We did price increases in 21 because of the demand increase, and also because of the fuel price increase. Was it 22? Maybe it was 22, end of 21. And then whatever. And then 22, we raised our price. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Almost immediately in 21, fuel started creeping up.
Yeah.
And then it
was correct. I updated prices Q1 of 2022, and then also beginning of Q3 of 2022. And so fuel is one indicator. Our area disposal fees have not gone up. However, getting dumpsters flipped, we have 8-yarders in the back, has gone up, and also getting 30s and 40s have gone up because of fuel prices. And I know I've talked to a lot of other people that said disposal up. So labor's up, fuel's up, disposal up. So the costs are higher, and then on top of it, the economy slowed down, which means now some people aren't buying at all, and others are more price averse. So they're more willing to shop around versus got to get it done right away, or I want to hire the best quality company.
So well, a lot of people also don't know. So, okay, let's rewind again. In 2020, a lot of people were stuck at home. So you had home projects, you had boredom, you had, hey, let's clean up my house, my yard, my area. Let's get some things done. Right. Then you also had in 2021, the market was booming. Everybody was like, let's sell our house. Let's buy our house. There's bidding wars everywhere. Everybody was moving. Now, no one's moving, or at least a lot of people have there's just no, it's gone down drastically. And the problem with that is when people don't move, they don't need their shit cleaned out, or they don't think about it because it's not in the way. They don't think about the attic or the basement being packed right now because they're not even worried about moving because rates are too high. Yeah. Developments are slowing down right now. Banks don't want to touch raw land because how risky development projects are at the moment. I'm going through this right now as we speak. There's 8 acres premium land in North Fort Worth, and pass it to a group that I work with. The underwriting, everything qualified. It went great. It was like, this is a smoking deal. Let's talk about it. The day before we were supposed to talk about it, I had a meeting with the seller, which is a huge $1 billion developer. And I had a meeting with the broker. Well, the group that I was with, we were going to buy this property. They backed out last minute because the development, they're like, hey, there's just a couple things that we didn't really like for our investors on their return. It's not quite where they needed it to be. Come to find out, it's not that. It's that they don't know where they're going to find capital because banks don't want to touch raw land. Well, the reason why that makes a lot of sense for even us in the junk removal world is because when you build a neighborhood, you start building houses, schools, amenities. What follows residential, commercial, retail, business, small business. That's the economy. That's the economy booming. And when that stops or slows down, it's a trickle effect. People stop spending money. They're not moving anymore. They're settling in, saying, hey, you know what? I'm in this rental. I was supposed to buy a house next year, but now I can't afford it. Now I don't know what my rent's going to be when my lease renews. It may go up. So I think I'm going to be careful with what I spend my money on. And that's a huge deal now. Look at the multifamily. Look at apartment complexes. You have that big one in Houston, one of the biggest real estate owners in the world, actually, foreclosed on a 400 or 500 unit complex. That's never happened. But it's because built? A lot of, this thing was probably 10 or 15 years old. I'm not sure all the details, but they foreclosed on.
So they didn't have the necessary occupancy to pay the bills?
Well, not only that, they just couldn't support. Yeah, their numbers were based years and years ago. And now it's like, oh shit, inflation hit them hard. They can't refi out of it. Well, the reason that's a big deal is because now those tenants, right, they're stuck in a situation to where a new owner can come in, flip the script on them, say, hey, you know what? When your leases are up, you're out. We're going to remodel this place. Or B, we're going to raise your rent. Or C, we're going to make this affordable housing. And now the economy just starts to drip down in that area. But that's another story. The main thing is, this economy that we're in right now, it's changing so much. A lot of people are like, oh, rates are going to go down. They're going to go down. Well, obviously, everything will go down and up, down and up. That's literally called life. But the biggest thing that's not really going down right now is cost, right? It's still expensive to fill up your tank. It's still expensive to go to the grocery store. And our clients, the average client, the consumer, right now, they're probably not thinking junk removal right now. I'm not saying it's not going to. There's some companies out there, they're doing well, right? Don't get me wrong. Well, when I see dumpster companies flourishing like no other, we can't keep enough dumpsters. Then I see junk removal on its way down. That tells me that the consumers who use junk removal are being a little bit more conscientious about their money.
Yeah, because at the time now, especially when you're talking real estate investors and what have you, they have more time than money. Well, in the last 18, 24 months, they had money that was readily available, inexpensive money to buy, and time was of the essence to get, properties in and out. And so now you're absolutely right. It's a situation where they have more time than money, and they're not looking to make another investment because that great investment probably isn't around the corner because the prices have peaked and prices haven't gone down yet on houses. So the demand is still or the not say the demand. There's not a lot of movement still.
Right.
And the challenge is like
you
labor.
Cash heavy.
Yeah. The other issue is labor. Once somebody's used to making $17, $18 an hour, they're not going to go back to making 15, 16.
No, that doesn't happen.
And
I don't think that's ever happened.
No, when we first started our business, we were hiring guys. This was 2016, call it. A real business. Before
13 and 14 an hour.
Oh, I was getting away with 10 for unskilled guys, 11 if they had if they were a veteran or decent skill, and 12 if they could drive. And then we got to a point where it was 12 for everybody, 15 for drivers. Now I can't touch an employee for $15 an hour. Now, if I want a decent college kid or even just a decent person, it's $17, $18 an hour. Our top guys are making $24, $25 an hour. The fact is, I mean, when I was a skilled tradesperson, when I did concrete, I was making like $23.50 an hour. I was the lowest paid guy in the crew because skilled trades were between, $23 and like $28 an hour. And junk removal paying guys $24, $25 an hour. We got to have a lot of hours in front of them. These aren't big, we're not building, multi tens of millions of dollars of freeways, right? Where, a little bit here, a little bit there. Like I need my guys cranking. And it adds
there's also no funding for, you have a lot of these bigger companies, they have funding. They get funding years in advance. There's funding. They have budgets. Every year they have a budget committee that goes over their stuff. And when they control the landfill, it's a huge deal because, and this is what I was talking about. One of my clients, I was like, look, year 3, I stopped going landfill, but it still affected me. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I still use dumpsters at my yard and their prices went up because their disposal's going up because of landfills. It was cheaper for me, obviously, than if I were to take it myself, but they're not they want to do more work with the communities that they're in, with the residents, than other companies that come in. There's certain landfills now that are saying, hey, even if you are a business, you're either going to pay, I think the one outside of Fort Worth was astronomical. It's like $200 minimum. That's for the first 2 tons. And then it's $100 a ton after that. And they're like, that's for non-residents and business. Yeah. So if you have a business and you're a resident, then you're a resident and you pay like, I don't know, $100 minimum with $60 a ton or something. Yeah. You're just thinking to yourself, like, that's insane. But that's their way of saying, we don't want to do more business with outsiders unless we're going to get paid for it. The other thing is recycling. The cost of recycling's gone up a lot, at least down here. Yeah. If you want to recycle tires, it used to be $1.25 to $8 for an 18-wheeler tire. Now, an 18-wheeler tire for bulk is $23, which is crazy to think. Years ago in landfill, they charged $25 if you wanted to take it there. And now even these actual tire recyclers are charging $23 for an 18-wheeler tire. And that's a bulk price, which is insane.
Yeah, and they still have to transport it, take it to the landfill, and
they take it to the shredder. I mean, they take it to the shredder. They do their thing, but it all runs on fuel prices and everything in the economy, right?
Well, and the other thing that's happened, and we talk about this often, is you see a bunch of these cats on Facebook and even LinkedIn now talk about how to make 6 figures in junk removal. So you got more and more guys coming in that are willing to drive down the price. And what you end up seeing is junk removal companies popping up out of nowhere. And now the positive thing for me is, as of today, I got 697 5-star reviews on our company. And we get some of that business. They'll hire the cheap guy the first time and they hire us the second time because they had a poor experience. Problem is, if they don't need a second time, then I don't have that opportunity. And so for these younger businesses, I'm not saying necessarily younger people, but younger businesses, they're coming in, they're coming in low. They can keep their margins tight, or their margins low because and also their prices low because they don't have a lot of growth going on in their business, or they don't have the type of insurance, vehicle, overhead. They don't have that fixed costs like we do. And what ends up happening with all these cats is they get to like 2 trucks. And then they start playing by big boy rules, and then they realize they have to increase their price, and now they're competing with us. And then somebody else comes in. So we're constantly having people coming in willing to do a job for less. I did I did a bid recently, and somebody came in. We were on $1,000, like a trailer and a half job, and someone came in. They're like, "Oh, I got someone that'll do it for $250," and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I was like, could I have done that job for $250 back in the day? And like, okay, 10 years ago, my brothers and I would have done it. Unmarked trucks and trailers, taken to the landfill. Probably would have spent, $70, $80 at the landfill, maybe 100, because we had residency, and would I have done it for 100 and a half? Yeah, probably 4 or 5 hour job. My brothers and I.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I would have done it back then. Fuel prices back then were $1.50, $2, and I was paying my brothers in cash. So it's like, and then I'm like, well, where are they dumping it? How are they getting by? But it's like, well,
if there's that many questions popping up,
yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
No, it wasn't my customer in the first place, which I was fine with. Right, it wasn't the right zip code. There's a lot of contributing factors as to why it wasn't. I'm not losing sleep over it, but why it wasn't ideal. It still is though. How can you do that job for that price? Right,
yes.
or it's like, hey, we'll do it for $250, and they do half the job. Because we get that from time to time too.
Yeah, so I will say this. This is what I learned in the demo game. I actually talked to a guy, a plumber. He's a commercial plumber. I was on a property the other day getting a junk removal client and longtime listener of the show, Tim, getting him settled into Fort Worth. He just moved from Albuquerque to Fort Worth.
Tim Reeves?
Tim Reeves. Yeah.
Long-time listener. Yeah, Reeves Haldol.
Yeah, so I hooked him up with a property down here to just live on. It's 3 acres. He has an RV. He's just trying to get settled, get business going.
Yeah, do you know why? Why did he move to Texas? Side note, why did he move to Texas from New Mexico?
Because he was outside of Albuquerque, right?
Yeah.
Now, we've talked for a long time, probably for about 6 months. And the most common thing was no matter what, everything was about an hour drive.
Yeah, that's tough.
And the landfills were expensive, very strict. It was very hard for him to conduct business out there and in a profitable way. And plus he has family and friends out here as well. They do. So his plan was he's going to come out here for a few months, get things up and going, bring his wife and kid and actually move out here more permanently. But I mean, where he was, his total population was about 40,000.
Yeah.
So that's a huge game changer. Now he's outside of Fort Worth,
10 million or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. But this commercial plumber I was talking about, because he was like, hey, how do you know where this water hookup was? And I was like, oh, I demoed this house about a year ago. And he goes, oh, so do you still do that? And I was like, I got out of the demolition as far as what I was doing. Now I kind of just partner with people. He's like, how come? I was like, it was a very hard industry. And I got in the wrong time that I would have been either gobbled up or I would have been massively in debt just to keep up. Because these bigger demo companies were coming in. And I talked to the owners of a few of them, and they were brutally honest. They would say, hey, look, we don't like touching little jobs. But at this point, to keep our guys going and interested, we'll pick up small jobs that we know we're not going to make money on to keep our guys moving. Yep. If we have a crew that may have a 2-3 day gap in their schedule before a big job, we'll send them on a house demo. We'll send them on a mobile home demo. And I'm like, holy shit. He goes, the cost doesn't really matter because we get it done in a few hours where normally it'd take a couple of days for someone else.
Yeah.
And I was just like, damn. And you just can't really compete with that at least at my stage, at the startup stage, because I almost got, and here's the other thing, Andy, for those that are listening that have looked into getting business loans, man, I'm glad I almost got an SBA loan for my business. At the time, it would have been amazing. I was looking at about $275,000. That would have gave me money for equipment and a little bit of operating capital. My rate would have been insane, awesome. The problem is most SBA loans are adjusting rates.
Yep.
So if you were to think about that, let's say last year I take that loan out, my interest rates would have probably be in the 9% range right now. Just killing me. So very glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, on $275,000 that, okay, you have some equipment. The operating capital part is that money's gone. I remember when we were still in the franchise and I was still talking to franchisees, the guys that were like, oh yeah, I got approved for $125,000, $150,000 SBA loan. And I'm going to use that for my first 6 months. And I'm like, man, you get kind of fat and happy. I mean, I maxed out a bunch of credit cards and I saw that bill every month and I didn't want to pay any of that interest. I'm like, no, I use no interest cards, but right, I got hungry, but you go get yourself
Yeah.
a 15, 20-year loan at 100.5. It's like, well, that's great. What happens if your business folds up in 2 years? You still owe that money. And that's
the other thing is, what are you using the money for? Because at least, my thing was for equipment. Like I was going to get a truck, trailer, skid steer, excavator.
Correct. If it goes to shit, you sell it, you pay down the loan. Maybe there's a little bit of delta, and away you go.
Yeah.
If you're using it for Facebook ads, that money's gone. Well, I knew guys that did that, or guys that bought at the time. Obviously we were with J-Dog and talking to them. They were paying for their franchise fees and all the other shit. It's like, man, once you go to that bullshit training, that's it. You get your 1 week of bullshit training.
I never understood the financing part of the franchise. I honestly didn't, because for me, it's like if you can qualify anyone for this franchise, how and at what point? Even let's just say your third year. Let's say everything's going good. At what point are you even starting to make a profit? Because now you have your franchise fees, royalties, regular overhead, and now you have a loan on top of all that is probably adjusting, and it's for the franchise. It just seemed like too much control. It didn't make sense to me.
Well, our first year in business, less credit cards, we only bought what we had already saved up for or could afford. And so we ran with the equipment we had. And I'll tell you, I made a lot more money that way. I even see guys now on Facebook, and it's like, I made $350 in 40 minutes. And I'm like, cool. Like, that's you. Your body's still good and your truck's paid for. What happens when you get this? What happens when you got a crew out there doing it? Like
your body's still good.
I say that because I don't.
It's true.
I know how much money it takes for us to run our business. We got 12 trucks in our fleet. Not all of them are we paying leases on. A couple of them are paid off. We got a 20,000 square foot building. I'm sitting on 2 acres. I got hourly and salaried employees, right? It's a $6,000 a day burn rate. If I do nothing, it costs me $6,000 a day to run my business. And I got here over time by building a sustainable business. And to your point about those big demo companies, I can do a job at break even to keep my guys moving, investing in them, because I can sustain weeks or months of not great weeks or months. I do it.
Well, that's what we would
winter.
do.
Yeah.
We would do a small little construction job. Hey, will you go by one of these houses and just do a sweep out, right? And I would send 2 guys to go sweep and leaf blow outside of a new build. We would get $150 for it. You think that made us happy? No, it made my guys happy because they're working.
Yeah, they got 2-3 more hours
still there.
Yeah, on a Tuesday when you would have cut them early, they got a couple extra hours.
Well, because and this is a conversation I was having with this new company. I was like, you're going to get to a point where you have to understand how to schedule your people, because it's easy to be like, hey, I'm hiring a full-time position. I guarantee 40 hours. Well, you can probably guarantee it in a really good season, but in the slow season, I'm going to tell you right now, your biggest battle is going to be keeping your guys on an even keel, because some of them are okay with the flexibility. Like, hey, you might get 40 hours this week. You might get 35. My job is I'm going to try to get you 40. And you're going to have them come in, and it's going to be a Thursday. Let's just say the last day of the week. For us, it was Fridays. Saturday to Friday, that's how we did it. 2 days off each person. So if it was Thursday and they're like at 30 hours, and I know Friday's not busy, I may have them come in for a couple hours. But then it's like, hey, guy, sorry, I'm not going to just spend 8 hours of labor with you sitting around doing nothing.
No.
Right? And if I have 13 other people in a similar situation, and one guy's looking at 20 hours, guess what? He's going to be working. Even though it may be your day, this guy's at 20, you're at 30. Yeah, he's working.
Yeah, the math of it all.
Yeah,
and so
the math.
So you consult clients. They're in junk removal. What are you telling them? And what are you advising them in this time?
Honestly, the one thing I can tell you that has not shifted since I got into the industry, right? The one thing that hasn't changed is community-based businesses. If you can get communities behind you and be involved with them, then when it comes to marketing, it's just that much easier for you to get jobs, to get work, to get service. There's just a huge difference, because you can go out there, and no offense to any of these marketing companies, and we've had a couple on our show that do SEO and ads. No offense to any of them, but they'll even tell you first, hey, guess what? This is a small part of your marketing. So if you can come in here and dump 10 grand a month into SEO and marketing, yeah, that'll help, but it's not the answer, because time and time again, for us at least, and for a lot of people that you and I know, referrals, repeat business, they just keep going. And as long as you're involved, you will always have someone to do a job for, to work with. So I was talking to these, and I'm like, look, a lot of people I work with are very either brand new into the business or a few years in. And this new company I'm talking to, they're local, and it's a couple. It's a husband and wife, and the wife has a full-time job right now. So she's kind of playing, hey, I'm going to do the back end stuff on my own time, and he's out there banging jobs.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, how long y'all been in business? He said, we've had the LLC for a month and a half. I said, okay, how many jobs have you done? He said, 5. I said, great. And he goes, why? I go, because let me ask you a question. Were any of those jobs locally? He said, no, they weren't. The closest job he did was like 20 minutes away. And I said, who are they for? He goes, oh, friends and family. And I said, okay. I go, here's why. No one knows who you are. Your Facebook sucks. Your website sucks. You have a great name, great brand, but no one knows about it. So you also have he has a dually, right? A badass dually. I'm like, that's great, but I can't pick it out in this parking lot, because we met for lunch. I was like, look in the parking lot. If you didn't know that was your truck, how would anyone know who you were? So it's just the basics, right? And the one thing I told him was, our first actual month, we did like $7,500. But our first month that we opened, I don't even know if we did maybe a couple jobs. But we started meeting people, go to these networking events, go to these ribbon cuttings that you went to ribbon cuttings a lot. Tons. And I'm like, go to them, because those are your ambassadors, dude. Those will speak your name, your brand for you. Hell, look at right now. This podcast has grown so much. It's so awesome. And have we marketed at all on Google or Facebook ads?
Nope.
No. Do we need to? No, but we haven't. And it just shows you consistency and speaking to people one-on-one works.
Well, and consistency over time. The other thing, to your point, I recently worked with a junk removal company. I had a project out of state that we were facilitating, and I had the worst customer experience with this particular junk removal company. And I
think you're saying something about that.
Yeah, I called you about the other day. And I thought, I was like, how does this person stay in business? And it's like, I want to give them a shitty review and burn their business to the ground because it was a shit fucking interaction. Same token, it's like, whatever, right? If allow the market to respond. If the market responds to that, fine. Then what the fuck do I know? And if it responds negatively, okay. I see a lot of people in junk removal. Again, I spend enough time on the Facebook pages to get irritated. You have people complaining about this and complaining about that. It's like, hey man, that's not your customer. Don't if they're not going to pay you what you think you're worth, not your customer. But and to your point, if not everybody in town knows who you are, that's called opportunity. You still got work to do. Whenever I go
the area I'm in. Well, the area I'm in, 3 years ago, we did a feasibility study or whatever. It was an $18 million industry, junk removal, in our area. The highest we ever saw was $1.5 million.
Yeah.
In a year. So I'm thinking to myself, where'd the rest of it go? It wasn't me.
No, not even 10% market share.
Yeah. So it's like, sometimes we get in our own heads. Oh, we're slow. Why is no one hiring us? Most of the time, it's because they don't know who the hell you are. That's it.
Yep.
They just don't know who you are. They don't know where you are. So you need to keep getting out there. I don't care if you're like, oh, well, I went to a couple meetings last week, or man, this whole month, that's all I've been doing. Great. Do it again 10 times over, because that's what it takes. Honestly, it's like, congratulations. You took the first step into freedom. You're an entrepreneur. Now, guess what? Now it really gets hard. Like now you're really going to start hating life, because if you stop, it stops. The machine shuts down.
I was at a conference a couple weeks ago in Orlando, and this guy, Doc, can't remember his name. I have his book around here. He's there. He's got a table, and he's giving away his books. I'm like, hey man, what's your story? And he basically the businesses that he's in, the way he gets paid is by working with companies to transition veterans. And it's not quite recruiting. It's in the vein, not quite recruiting. It's more leadership skills and development training for transitioning vets. Got it. We'll leave it at that. And I'm like, what do you do all day? I was like, you wrote a book. You're a psychologist. You have a PhD. He's like, I do this all day. I go from convention to convention to let people know who I am and what I do. And I'm like, okay. Right. So I think about, man, I don't want to stand in the booth, but it's like, well, that guy, if he wants his end state, which is training people and supporting vets as they transition out of the military, he figured out what he needs to do. It's not about Facebook or Google. It's about he's got to get out there at these organizations. And for him, this government contracting convention, he's not selling to the government. What he realized was, there was 1,500 attendees. Let's call it 500 of them were exhibitors or sponsors or whatever. There's 1,000 people attending that want to sell to the government, and they need employees. So it's like he's there because he wants to connect with the people that are going there, and people that don't even know he exists. Right? And like, he's going to shake hands and kiss babies with the DOD and some of these other places. But for the most part, he's there to talk to the same end user group. And he's hawking it.
Yeah.
I know when I was most successful in junk removal, when I was doing 40, 50 networking events a month, plus another 25, 30 one-on-ones, because I had to put the work in. And it wasn't like these bullshit salespeople that check the box and make the calls and do the minimum. When I did all these things, I also showed up, and I was, genuine and authentic. We can all tell when you're there checking the box and faking the funk. And what I've seen too often with junk removal is they don't show up, or when they do show up, they show up half-assed.
Yeah.
And I rarely ever see junk removal companies. The big boys, the franchises, rarely do you see them at anything other than the larger conventions because they rely heavily on their marketing and franchise dollars, right? They don't have the expendable capital, and they're not the face. They're not the brand. They don't have a unique selling proposition. They are a commodity. You, independent junk removal owner, man, woman, or child, you are the differentiator, and it's your story.
You're the front runner. Yeah,
100%. And
that's why it's important to get with. Go ahead. Sorry.
I would say, when the phone's not ringing, it's your responsibility to get it to ring. It's really that simple. And do the things that are necessary today so you can have them tomorrow. You mentioned this podcast. We're on episode 61. We haven't missed a week yet. There's some weeks we double down on episodes. Today, a guy canceled. It easily could have been like, hey, guy canceled. I got shit to do. You got shit to do. Let's just chalk it up next week. It's like, no, we're running the podcast and we'll figure out what to talk about because we're going to be consistent over time. We're going to practice what we preach.
Well, and that's the thing. The other thing is, let's say this podcast was all you and I actually had. Let's say this was it.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, we relied on it. Obviously, things would be different. If we're this consistent on our pastimes, then imagine if this was our moneymaker. This is our livelihood. But I tell people, if you're hungry, find other people that are hungry and see how y'all both can hunt together. Right now, who's really hungry? Real estate agents, title companies. Those people are hungry right now. So if you really want to get in good, guess who also talks to a ton of people? Real estate agents, title companies. So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
You start talking to these other hungry people.
Yeah.
I recently, as you know, a lot of people already know, my wife has a photography company. Her main clientele is real estate agents and brokers, as well as lenders and some title people, but for the most part, it's agents. Well, my connections with builders has helped us get venues locked down, luxury locations locked down. But we did this awesome event about a month and a half ago, and that's where we had a title company come in. They hosted the event. We found a nice, awesome house to do it there. My wife actually did like a 5-minute presentation on kind of what she does and how it helps these realtors' businesses, right? The title person put vendors there that paid for the amenities, like the champagne, orange juice for mimosas, the food, but they also paid us to be there and take these pictures. And what we did is we offered free headshots for whoever attended. Now, this is why it's a win-win-win. the win for us, we got paid to go do what we do, right? At the same time, our customer acquisition, well, it was actually a cash flow because we got paid to pick up customers instead of the latter. The other win is the title person made more connections with real estate agents as well as a home builder. And then the win for the home builder, well, they're trying to sell houses. And guess who is at the house? A bunch of real estate salespeople. So out there, get creative. If you have a junk removal company, it doesn't always have to be about the junk removal. It just needs to be about your customers. And how do you find those customers? Well, you can't just go call up every person that lives around you, but you can get in touch with other people that can get in touch with those people and so forth.
Well, the other thing that you're doing there is you're also giving away something that doesn't cost you much. So, for example, that home builder doesn't really. What does it cost them? A cleaning crew to have 50 realtors show up? Not even.
And that's the thing. It was on a weekday, so that model home, is just sitting there.
It's chilling
with the sales rep bored.
Yeah, and your wife gets. What does your wife get out of the deal?
We got like $70 a head. So
there you go.
She's already 20 realtors that showed up.
There you go. So you're getting maybe her normal session is $700. And it's $70 a head for she has to set up her lights.
But they're only getting 2 pictures too.
So they're getting 2 pictures. Boom, boom. So you're getting a tenth of the cost of. I mean, I know what it costs. Good headshot session is probably $250, $300 plus the price of photos. Right, you're sort of $500 into it. So she's doing something at an extreme discount, and it's the thing that she does. When I see a lot of people, they want to sell something or give away something that has nothing to do with them. It's like, well, no, give away what you already do so people have a taste for it. With your wife, if she gets 2 people out of those, she gets a 10% conversion, 2 people out of those 20 that came in to be her clients, it was well worth it.
Dude. Well, that's the thing is, so we're doing it again because other builders and other title people are seeing this saying, holy shit, that's a great idea. The coolest thing, so imagine if you're a junk removal company, right, which you are. Imagine some other business comes up to you, Andy, I want to pay for a full trailer of junk removal for one of my clients. Yep. Okay, cool. Who's your client? Well, this is my client. His name is Steve. So I also want to pay for these people. And then we all get together and say, hey guys, this is Andy. So he's going to put you on the schedule and he's going to do a trailer for each and every one of y'all. And it's going to be free to y'all. Right? Now, would that help you? And if so, how would it help you? Because you're getting paid. It may be a discount because it's your buddy who's fronting it, right? He's sponsoring you. But how does it help Andy and your junk removal company?
Well,
it gets you in front of the customer.
It gets me in front of the customer. I'm already doing the work. I don't have to sell the project or the job. And one trailer can always lead to more. It's really that. It's that simple. It's what we do. We do our e-waste events, very similar to what your wife is talking about, right? We do them. They're pretty much a break-even proposition. We charge for tube TVs because we pay for them. And by the time we sort and ship the material, it's pretty much a break-even. By the time we pay our guys and everything. The advantage, though, is instead of doing 10 to 20,000 pounds of e-waste a year, last year we did 150,000 pounds. This year we're going to do at least 150,000. So now
just
e-waste, 150,000 pounds of e-waste we did last year. So now this year we're doing that much more e-waste. So now the e-waste that we pick up at commercial properties and residential properties, we're getting a better price for because our volume is so high, taking it down. And now with this e-waste processor, if they have jobs that are too small of a project for them, they know they can send them to us because it's a sweet spot project. And we do them at realtors' offices. 2 years ago, we did 2 of them. Same office, spring and fall. Or 3 years ago. And then 2 years ago, we did 3 total. Last year, I'm like, hey, let's do 12. We ended up doing 11 last year. And then this year, I said, all right, I want to do, there's 16 basically weeks we can do it. In Wisconsin, or whatever, because we do them every other week. Whatever. I said, let's do 14. We're on track to do 14. Other offices found out about it, and they're like, hey, when can I get in? I'm like, next year. Like the demand was so high, and now if we have offices that don't perform this year, we don't go back to them next year. And no different. Last year we had a couple offices that didn't perform. Now the advantage they get is they get to drive customers to their parking lot. So now they know, the customers know, hey, this real estate agent is here. We're also showing everybody that you don't have to or you can't rely on the municipalities. You got to partner with other small businesses to make shit happen. And for us, we're already doing recycling. So I'm not going in and risking cleaning your house out for free because I'm going to still my goal is to still sell that service to you.
Yeah.
I'm giving a portion of what I do away for free. And now people are excited and engaging. And then, it's one of those give first mentalities. I did make the choice early in business to do jobs for free for people that said they were going to introduce us to people. And that was a complete fucking bust. Terrible idea.
Yeah.
So I don't like to give away, to your point, like, it's one thing when someone else gives away your services, or you give it away, like, we're at a golf outing today, we'll give away a free trailer if you win the prize. It's like, fine, it's a giveaway, everyone talks about it, you're drumming it up, but it's a gift. There's no expectation. But when I did jobs for free early in our career, with the expectation people are going to introduce us to people, man, even if they didn't introduce us, they introduced us to all the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing is, we talked about this before. If you're going to volunteer something, volunteer your time, not your business.
Yep.
We did similar things twice a year. We worked with a nonprofit that they called it the Blitz. And it was really cool because in one weekend, it was 2 weekends a year, but in one weekend they had 5,000 volunteers come in and they would go around the city and they were rehabbing like 30 or 40 different homes for these old timers, these old veterans, whatever, right? People that needed help. Hey, my roof's collapsed. I can't afford to get a new roof. Well, we're going to rebuild your roof for you in a day with all this other stuff. Well, anyways, I came in. Yeah, and I volunteered a crew, and all we did was haul away stuff from these job sites to the main parking lot, dump it, and then we go back. Republic was also a sponsor. They had dumpsters. So for us, I could say, hey, a truck and trailer that's fully wrapped, going in all of my area, by the way, just nonstop marketing. All right, I got 2 guys that are getting paid. Yeah, am I taking a hit? Well, I'm paying my guys. They're working. But we're also doing a good cause. Yeah, and it was for a weekend. And it was 2 weekends a year. That was a commitment I made because I saw the value in it. We got a ton of jobs from that. And I want to tell people, like, if you you have to always stay creative when it comes to marketing because like we did with this photography session. Yeah, look, it was completely different than junk removal, but the concept's still there. I don't know how many times we would be a part of an event or we would even host an event and part of it, either a raffle or a prize was half a full trailer. But that doesn't mean you have to do it for free because all you got to do is ask another person, hey, would you like to sponsor this prize? And then what they're doing is they're bringing money to the table. So that way you can actually say, hey, look, I got a crew and a full trailer that now I can disperse for free. I mean, I'm getting paid, but it's free to the customer. There's always different ways of doing it. And this is the time to start doing it. Like you already know, Google works, Facebook works, but here's the problem. It works until it stops working for whatever reason, right? But if people stop spending money, no Google ad's going to change their mind. You have to have a trust within your community and you have to have involvement. Hey, use these people because I know them personally. I see them all the time.
Well, Google and Facebook work for everybody else too. You got to go find somewhere that doesn't work for everybody else. And the bigger companies can throw dollars and out-dollar you on Google and Facebook.
Absolutely. And that's
they don't have the local appeal that you have. The kids don't play T-ball together, right? It's all those little things. It's I've seen this before. It drives me nuts. It's like people that wrap trucks park in the middle of the parking lot. Like, no, I park as far away as I can. So every single person, my daughter always says that, Daddy, when we go to the grocery store, why do you always go park far away? Because I want to park where everybody has to turn and see my truck. That's why.
Yeah.
Because for the 10 minutes, 15 minutes I'm in the grocery store, if I can land one customer, shit, find me another parking lot. I will drive around all day. If I can get four customers an hour by driving my Jeep around and parking in parking lots, I'm all about that life.
Well, my crews, if they want to have lunch, I'm like, hey, look, a lot of times there's a Taco Casa next to a Lowe's. And a lot of times they want to go to Taco Casa. Obviously, those parking lots are small. So I told them, like, I don't care where you go. Go to lunch, but park in a huge parking lot where people can see you. That way they see 2 things. One, they see your badass truck and wrap. But then they see this badass mob, this crew walking to the trucks and walking out of the trucks like you are a part of something. And that's what's cool. People see that. They're like, oh, they're all in uniform. They're all walking either camo pants and green shirts, whatever, out of these badass wrapped trucks, and they're going to get food. Now, the flip side, I would also tell my crews, if it was a late day, like a Fridays and Saturdays, especially on the way back from their last job, if they could hit a downtown area of like a small town, I would tell them, even if it took them longer, I said, go that way.
Slow roll.
Be in traffic. Slow roll through downtown. And they're like, but why? It's going to add an extra hour of pay. I'm like, I don't care. You know how many people are out? They're out there sitting out there on the patios, eating whatever, hanging out. They're going to see you in traffic, just sitting there. And you stand out more than anybody. Those are the keys, and then I think the one thing I'll always rely on, no matter what I do, even in 10 years from now, the one thing I'll always rely on is person-to-person connection, getting people to back you, because that's also key. And I found this out after selling the company. People still relied on me because of what I used to do, because they knew me. Hey, what are you doing now? I'm curious. I want to know what you're doing now. See if it fits what I need. And it's like, oh, I'm doing this. Oh, shit, I'd love to help you out. It's like they're almost asking you, hey, can I spend money on you?
Yeah. What is it you do, and how can I pay you to do it? Well, it's people buy from people they know, like, and trust, and you can control two things there, right? You can get them to know you. You can get them to trust you. And that's the key. Then and lean in on that and be consistent about leaning in on that. Oh,
absolutely.
See, I like these episodes because as we're talking about this, I'm like, oh yeah, what did I used to do that worked?
Yeah, what have I not done in years?
Yeah, what have I not done? No, trust me. Well, Ken and I talked about last week. We said, hey, why? 2019 was the last full year I was in junk removal. It's like, well, why is it we had so much momentum? It's like, well, because every day at 11 a.m. I had a tour. I brought people in our facility. Yeah. I can sit here and talk about recycling until I'm blue in the face, or I can invite people over and show them our facility, and that makes a huge difference when we can show people our facility.
Well, that's the other thing is, right now when you're starting out, this is what I tell people: if you're starting out, recycling is important. Yes. Is it cost effective for your business? Probably not. But do it when you can, when it makes sense for your business. On the other hand, don't start to. So another great point, Andy, that you were a part of this too. They were like, oh, I want to get a warehouse. Okay, that's one of our goals. They started a month and a half ago. And they're like, all right, so one of our goals this year is to get into a warehouse. My first question was, why?
Is this
why do you get a warehouse?
Five jobs in 6 weeks? Yeah.
Yeah. So I asked them, I go, why do you want a warehouse? Oh, I just can't stand working from home. I'm like, okay, I get it. So you want to spend money on the office. Well, it's like, well, we can also process material. I go, what material are you getting?
Yeah, you have 5 jobs.
Because at this point, you're just going to spend money we don't need to. And as we saw from firsthand experience, money doesn't fix these problems. Nope. When you throw money at the problem, it just gets bigger. We saw that with an investment group.
Yep.
They literally started out brand new people with 2 trucks, 2 trailers, a warehouse, and then it failed 18 months later. They don't know why. Well, because they couldn't pay for that shit.
Because they started the growth. Right. They started at the end state versus starting at the beginning state. And they didn't have to, they were never hungry. They were like, oh.
No, they're like, look at Andy has, look at Casey has.
Yeah.
It works. Let's start there. I'm like, well, it works because we built it to work into this. Like, it's not, it didn't just day one happen this way.
You figured out with scarcity. You figured out when you had less. I've been yawning all afternoon. I slept like shit yesterday. That's my issue.
Well, it's usually caffeine overdose or you're really tired.
No, what my issue was, or is, not really an issue. I'm down to 1 cup of coffee a day. And today I was like, oh, I probably should have a second cup. Right. And then I should somewhere. I should all over the place. And now it's almost 3:00 in the afternoon. And now if I have a cup of coffee, I'm going to repeat the cycle. I'm going to go to, I was going to shit the bed tomorrow.
This is awesome.
Super coffee. What is that?
It's amazing.
Super Coffee Cinnamon Roll, official sponsor of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. 13 amino acids and vitamins, 700 milligrams of caffeine. Watch your butthole pucker up. What is it called again?
10 grams of plant protein, 200 milligrams of caffeine. But here's the ingredients.
Coffee's a plant protein too.
Colombian coffee.
Yeah.
Pea protein, natural flavors.
PPEE or PEA?
PEA.
All right. I don't have the label. How am I supposed to? What's that stuff called?
Apparently, this is good stuff. It's called super coffee. But there's only 1 gram of sugar in it.
Super coffee with over 1 gram of sugar and 700 grams of
200 grams. You're good. It's plant-based too.
Whoa, it's 200 grams of caffeine? I was joking when I said 700.
Yeah.
God bless. You want your butthole to pucker up. Enjoy our cinnamon roll.
Nah.
200 grams of caffeine. And
it tastes just like cinnamon roll too.
Super
it's
coffee.
Insane.
It looks like an Ensure can.
It works.
Hey,
I like it.
Like a champ. I know. I mean, you love caffeine.
And it's only 12 ounces too, so you're not having to chug like a 16 or 20 ounce.
For those of you listening only today, he is not wearing his Meat Church hat.
No.
He's wearing a Yeti hat. And I'm pretty sure if I said Yeti was an official sponsor, we would get sued. So I'm not saying that. I can't imagine.
We could use the publicity, though.
Yeah, no, we could. Yeah.
Can you imagine? Hey, we're getting sued. Who's Trash Talk Business Podcast? They're getting sued. Really?
Can you get reverse sued for promoting somebody that's not paying you?
I don't know.
Like Jobber gives me a kickback. I do legally have to say that now. Jobber will give me a kickback if people sign up because I'm part of their affiliate program, and that's not anything new. The only difference is I talk about the podcast. I guess it's like an ethics thing. You have to say it. And I didn't even plug Jobber today because it didn't come up naturally in conversation. However,
I think we only get sued is if we make money off of mentioning it.
But what if you mention it like, hey, the NFL sponsors the Trash Talk Business Podcast? Like, they certainly don't, right?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't get written permission by the NFL. I checked.
Technically, it's perjury or libel or something? I don't know.
Just get Dino back on. But like Yeti, I could see, or like, we've talked about, I talk about DeWalt tools, right? I'm a DeWalt guy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine DeWalt being like, oh yeah, no, don't mention our name and tell us how good our tools are, right? I'm just saying.
I think it's different than saying, hey, mention our name, tell church up our name, promote us, but no, we're not a sponsor. Because at that point, it could also go bad. Like, hey, we hate Trash Talk, we hate Casey and Andy, and they like DeWalt, so now we're not going to use DeWalt.
Yeah, mostly Casey. Although I don't know that you've had a negative review. And I don't say the word review I had was. Well,
I haven't, but it's kind of like Biden in America. No one wants to do business with America because of Biden.
51.
That's why we just don't mention it.
51 minutes into the episode, and you bring up Brandon. Why you gotta do that? However, here's the other thing. I'll do a shameless plug as I do often in these episodes. My book comes out this week. Words fucking matter. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Transition. Well, here's the deal. I'm already getting pushback because the name of the book is called Words Fucking Matter. Retrain your brain to use people on the internet that are offended by the word fuck and or think it's lazy language. And here's the deal. That's fine. That's awesome. That's your opinion. That's your perspective. I respect it.
You don't have to buy it.
You don't have to buy it. That's how capitalism works. Because here's the deal. I'm doing the math. Right now, for every one complaint or concern, I get about 3 or 4 people being like, yep, I'm absolutely going to buy it because of that name. Because when you throw up a flag and tell people
that's why
declare,
Trump won the election.
Oh my God! I'm making a valid point. I just heard Taylor, our producer, in the back laugh. Don't encourage him. We are not endorsed. We are not endorsed, nor do we endorse any political parties.
Could we get sued for saying Trump's our main sponsor?
Spoiler, not a political
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, spoiler, not a political podcast. There are plenty of political podcasts out there. Casey, you should start a second podcast. I don't know what it would be called. Something about like
talking out of my ass. The politics behind politics.
Yeah.
I don't know politics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you're semi-retired and you watch too much YouTube, this is what I learned this week.
I will say this though, like it is kind of difficult to tell. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm telling a lot of people about your book. A lot of people. It is kind of difficult to tell certain people, like my family, like grandma and shit. Hey, grandma, buy Words Fucking Matter.
Yeah.
That's a little difficult for me. So, when they're asking like, oh, okay, what are you up to? And okay, what's, like my one of my grandmas, she asked about the podcast and we've talked about it and talked about you. You don't know her. She doesn't really know you either, but she knows we're associated. So she was asking about you and I was like, yeah, he even wrote a book and he has it's published now. And, it's out there and blah, blah, blah. Oh, what's it called? And I was like, I laughed and I was like, it's called Words Effing Matter.
Oh, actually, so I got the proof copy and my daughter, she's 9 and she calls it Words F Wording Matter, which is even funnier. Yes. Yeah. So actually I have a picture of her because she was reading a page. Here's the deal. Actually, you know what? I might do this live-ish on the air if I could pull it up without breaking the computer, because apparently computers don't like it when I pull up multiple tabs. But this is an Adobe file, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And actually, as you brought that up about mentioning the book, it reminded me I have a speaking engagement this week at a Rotary Club meeting, and I told the Rotary Club, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the day my book comes out," and the woman knows me. She goes, "Oh yeah, what's the name of it again?" I go, she goes, "What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Camel Crew? Or do you want to talk about your book?" And I was like, "No, let's stick with Camel Crew." And I go, "That's the day my book comes out." And she's like, "Oh, well, what's the name of your book again?" I go, "Words Fucking Matter." And she goes, "Yeah, don't mention that part." I go, "Yeah, I know. Yeah." And yeah, so it's like the day my book comes out, and I have the opportunity to do a 15 to 20 minute presentation about Camel Crew. Talk about what do you call it? A conflict of interest, right? Like Rotary clubs, they're actually, hold on, here we go. 55 minutes in, I came up with another idea. Rotary clubs, bunch of old rich folks that ain't got shit else to do that are philanthropic as fuck. If you have a philanthropic angle to your business, right? Like obviously I have the recycling and the work I do with Milwaukee County homeless vets and Operation Finally Home, and I have the veteran angle. Rotary clubs will let you come in and speak because they're always looking to guest speakers. They're always looking to support local businesses. Now, if you're like, Dick Bob's junk removal, I take it down to the end of the fucking cul-de-sac and dump it in someone else's front yard.
Dick Bob's specifically.
Dick Bob's. I don't know. That's all I could come up with at the time. It wasn't, obviously this wasn't rehearsed. And if that's the case, you probably aren't best. You don't have something philanthropic. Okay, here you go. Here's the deal. I was looking this up. Here we go. I just typed it in. I have the manuscript of the book. The word fuck appears in the book, in its text, fuck, 11 times.
Mm-hmm.
The word fucking, including all the titles in like title pages, 16 times. And the word fucked in the past tense, 1 time. So in total,
you're an R-rated movie. You're not even NC-17.
Well, here's the deal. I was in a book. I might have Taylor go get it downstairs. I was in a James Patterson book. Did you know that? And in that book, so they did. There's a chapter on me talking about my time returning from home. It's a walk in their combat boots. Anyways, in that book, I'm about to sneeze. In that book, I have 7 fucks and 7 pages. So I am, certified 1 fuck per page. This book, I have, so it's 29 total fucks and a total of 154 PDF pages. Like, that ain't that. That's 1 in 5 pages have a fuck. That ain't even. And that's with every single one that's buried in the glossary in the. Oh, yeah. You know what? That ain't. I mean, there's several chapters that have the word fuck in it because I got to get people interested.
So right now your book is available for sale because this is June, but this will come out in 4 weeks.
Yeah. When this comes out, Amazon, words fucking matter. Do the thing. That's it. And here's the deal. I joke about the title, but and I truly mean it by saying that don't judge a book by its cover. I've spent 18 months writing this book. I've talked to psychologists about the power of language. I watch and listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson, a lot of Joe Rogan and the different people he has on his podcast. I use personal experience. I lean in master resilience training that I learned in the Army to really come up with what I use on the daily to live a better life, where it's a life of empowerment. Really, it's becoming the victor of your story versus the victim of your situation or circumstance. And that's what it comes down to. And the reason I say words fucking matter is because I mean it that way. I'm very passionate about words, and I'm passionate about the language we use. And so, whether it's your favorite sports team or, getting into a fight, an argument at work, like you're going to drop F-bombs because you care. Like, I yell because I care, as some may say. And so I drop F-bombs because I care. There is a line in the book that's like your brain is a real motherfucker. Or is it, or your brain is a real bastard, I think there's a line. Because your brain fucks with you sometimes. Anyways.
Well, and I think there's a lot to be said about that, because think about your most stressful situations with your crews.
Yeah.
If you're mad at them, you probably speak a lot different than if you're frustrated with a situation that you really want to get a handle on.
So in the first
right?
chapter of the first chapter of the book, I had interviewed this guy, Dr. Bill Crawford, who I met through my Vistage CEO roundtable, and his argument is simple, and it's in line with what the Army teaches us in resiliency training. When you change your thought, and your thought is rooted in language, when you change that thought, you learn to respond to a situation versus reacting to a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone will change your life when you learn that.
I mean,
and again, and it's something you don't learn it once, like riding a bike and you just figure it out. Every day I have to practice it, because as humans, we are wired with negative bias to react to stay alive. Well, you know what? We don't have fucking saber-tooth tigers chasing us anymore. So it's less of a concern.
Language. Why is there? I mean, it just goes back to anything. I mean, we could literally talk for 4 or 5 hours on this shit, but language in general. Why do you think there's so many different dialects of different languages? I mean, trying to learn English is one of the hardest languages to learn, which is crazy to think, right?
Well, because it's like the combination of 3 or 4 languages. Like English is so fucked because they're like, oh, let's take a dramatic language and then introduce other words, and then that's why we got fucking beef and cow, because you got the beth, the French word, right, and you have the right, and you have the Anglo word cow, right, and you have Germanic words in there too, like. Oh, our English is such a hodgepodge. It's just the only reason the reason we spoke English is because the British hit it right at the right time. They got hot. They got hot right when sailing was the thing. That's it, right? And I mean, now hell, they came in. In our lifetime, this has nothing to do with the podcast. We're past the 1 hour marks now. I can talk geopolitics. In our lifetime, Great Britain will be no more. In our parents' lifetime, Great Britain went from, the sun never sets on Great Britain to, oops, we're down to like an island and a half. In our lifetime, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England will not be what they have been for the last 50 some odd years.
I also heard in maybe our kids' lifetime, unless Japan changes some shit, they'll cease to exist.
Why?
Because their death rate is outweighing their birth rate.
Oh, yeah.
Elon Musk spoke about this.
Yeah, you need 2.1. Well, even in America, and it was by 2050, the Hispanics were the largest largest race in America.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
There's so much influence; it's insane. I mean, even in the northern states.
Oh, I remember I first joined the Army. It was like, correct. When I first joined the Army, it was like, are you white or not? And now it's white and non-Hispanic, because they want to know.
Yeah.
Right, like down south, Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico. Back in the day, they used to call that place Mexico. So there was a lot more people of Spanish descent. Spanish-American War, remember the Alamo, a dick treaty. Let's just draw a line. Oh, I guess that's ours now. No big deal. Oh, you're here?
Technically, we're like, look, there's a line, guys, and it just happens to be the Rio Grande. We can't help it.
Yeah. Also, New Mexico used to be called Mexico back in the day. It's a true story. Well, Texas, the reason why there's Six Flags, the reason why y'all got Six Flags at Six Flags Great America was because Texas had 6 different countries that ruled over Texas. Let me see if I can remember. Ready? Here we go. We got the French. We got the Spanish.
Louisiana?
No, fuck you. Louisiana didn't fucking rule over Texas.
No, man, Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, Louisiana Purchase. Let me go back to what I was saying. France.
Oh, yeah, French.
The Spanish. Mexico itself. Dangle, United States. The Confederate States. And the Republic of Texas itself. There you go. And then y'all were.
There's only one star.
The 1 star. I know.
And now our GDP outweighs every state. It's insane.
What? Your GDP is higher than California now? No.
I think once Tesla's up and running, that's what they're talking about. We can secede if we want to. Let's fact this. Let's fact check this real quick.
Hold on. All right, hold on. Here we go. GDP. I'll see how you're trending. No, California's got beat by a is this in trillions or billions? California's got you beat by a shitload. By a shitload. I don't care. Hold on. One Elon
they just printing
Musk,
more money over there, I think, too.
Oh my God. They're printing more California money. No, here we go. In millions. So yeah, California 3.5 trillion. Texas 2.3 trillion. You're about 1.2 trillion away. Right? No, you're not even close. You are 2/3 of California. New York is only 300 billion behind you. Is that right? Yeah, that's got to be right. Yeah, don't think where's Wisconsin? Are we in the top 25? That's all I want to know.
But we can still succeed, though. That's the cool thing.
Wisconsin 21, no big deal. Up from last year.
Does Wisconsin have a constitution? A state constitution?
Every state has a state constitution, don't they?
I don't think so. I thought it was just Texas, man.
No,
we just kind of think we're the lone wolf over here.
Oh my God, no! Every state has a state constitution.
Are you sure?
Here, the state constitution is the supreme law of the state. State constitutions establish certain organs of government. Organs is a weird word there. For the state, vest these organs again with their powers.
Organs.
And deny certain other powers. Yeah, no. Every state has a constitution. Here, see, you're the classic Trump supporter that doesn't know shit about nothing other than
I'm not supporting Trump. I was just stating facts. He won because everybody hated him that shouldn't have been talking about him.
Jesus. All right. Anyways,
I'm going for DeSantis. Right. He's young, strapping.
Navy guy, also behind in the polls, and not when he announced he was running, did nothing to his poll numbers. And then, that's the problem. I watch enough crap on YouTube to know what's going on, not enough to form a real perspective that I could make a solid argument. All right, it's been over an hour. The people want to get back to banging jobs. What was your top takeaway from today after all this nonsense?
My top takeaway, honestly, is stick to the basics. When times get tough, the one thing that and we learned this in 2020, no matter what the government tries to do to you, no matter what the world tries to do to you, people have to congregate. People need to move. They need to talk. They need to be around other people. Well, that's the exact same thing in small business. If shit sucks right now, go talk to other people. Go talk to other small business owners that are going through the same shit as you are, and form an alliance and get creative. Creative marketing, man. That's my takeaway.
Yep, and I'll lean more on the sales aspect because I like sales. It's more natural than marketing. Is consistency is the key. Consistency throughout the entire funnel. Mm-hmm. Constantly meet new people and constantly nurture the leads and people you already have. When you do that, people won't forget you. It's amazing. I always go back to Alka-Seltzer. Alka-Seltzer still, every morning, Price is Right has a commercial. Why? So people don't forget. So what is it? Pop, pop, fizz, fizz, Alka-Seltzer.
Oh, what a relief it is.
Oh, what a relief it is. There you go. Nailed it. Nice jingle. We should get a jingle.
You just smile for the camera.
We had a jingle for the podcast, didn't we? Like, come on down to the trash talk. We did.
Yeah, it was like starts the truck up.
Taylor, right here in the episode. Yeah. Taylor, right here in the episode, we're gonna end. Taylor stuck his head in. I thought he was only listening. Okay, so right here in the episode, I'm gonna send it off, and you're gonna put in the jingle. We're gonna have ending jingle. All right. I'm Casey. He's Andy. I'm Casey. He's Andy. God bless. Dude, that's what happens when I look off camera. I forget how to fucking words. I wrote a book.
Matter,
no big deal. I know.
Apparently they fucking matter.
Here we go. He's Casey. I'm Andy. Words matter. This has been another amazing episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. We will see you next week. Kick in the outro music.